Hey everybody, Rodham here. Thanks for tuning in to Kerbal Space Program. So, I have two missions in progress. The sister ships setting sail. I just wanted to make a little bit of an announcement for those of you still watching. Kerbal Space Program is slowly coming to a close. The viewership numbers have waned and dwindled, and what I'm going to do is hit some of the last few things that you might want to see in this series. So I did ask my Discord channel, and they mentioned that an inner galaxy, inner solar system visit to Moho would be nice, and then maybe capturing an asteroid. So after those last two, that might just be about the last of my the series. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually coming up on a Moho transfer window. So what I'm going to do is basically get ready to go to Moho, I suppose. I think RHD 17.5 was the one. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to repurpose this craft for Moho. Moho does not have an atmosphere, so it does not need parachutes to do any aerobraking or anything like that. This craft won't be it won't be needing any monopropellant, but instead of redesigning the monopropellant systems, I'm just gonna not bring any monopropellant and also ditch my RCS. It's not gonna need docking either. So ditch the lights. It won't need this nose cone. Ditch that as well. Up top here, this could just be... What could I put up here? It could be a parachute. Make sure that... Yep. Top stage. Let's see. More chutes. Okay, so now the only chutes that are left on the ship are ones I plan on using. Inside here, it's not going to need the weather analyzer, but it can do the what's it called? The ion or inographer. I don't know what it's called. Okay. Inographer. Alright. That looks about right. Experiment goo. Okay. Save RHD 18. Done. One more thing, which was a tweak I probably could have done beforehand to all of the other two sister ship missions, is my last big phase that stages is what? This stage here. No, that's not correct. Stage. Oh, there's something weird and wonky going on with my staging on this rocket, which makes me worried that the other rockets had similar issues. So the first stage is this to the right. Alright, so let me set up my lines again. Trying to make it make it correct. So this to the right, and then that to the right again. That makes sense. The idea is to use all of my inner engines because there's nothing underneath them. So why not, right? So then this here will fuel the first stage that kicks out here. So it would look like something like that. So not quite asparagus anymore, like a spiral stage. All right, done and done. And then what we'll be able to do is have all of these rockets, albeit the Hound here, this Hound rocket is not very fuel efficient, but it also sips fuel, so it's compared to everything else, so it doesn't really matter. All right, RH-D18, you look set to go. The other issue is, who do I have to even fly it? I don't really even have a pilot anymore. I have a scientist. So maybe a probe core would be in order, just so that I have some sort of control over how this thing flies. Okay. It's gonna look real dumb with the probe core and then the parachute, but yeah, whatever. Save that bad boy and launch. So while the sister ships are heading for their Duna intercept, I can get this ship into parking orbit, ready for a MUN window, and we'll just have 3 flights sort of being juggled. So I'm putting this into a parking orbit, but again, you're about to not be able to hear me, so... This time, all of the inner engines are also firing for a little bit extra thrust, which is something I could have done with the last craft, if you can even hear me. Here, I can adjust that sound down for now, so it's not ear-splitting, right? What's funny is I still hear it at full volume, so you probably sense that I'm like yelling into my mic like an idiot, but I'm only adjusting it on the recording and not what's coming in my eardrums. Alright, well I'm gonna have to be flying the craft, so back to full volume for you guys. It's cool that there's like onion ring thrusts coming out of this, right? That looks pretty cool. Alright, now I'm back to full blast. And start to tilt to 90. Open up my staging. Let's point prograde, because I'm about to have to stage off one of these big old tanks. Bye-bye, big tank. Now, all of the inner tanks here are full because well, hypothetically, yeah, they're full. Because I asparagus staged it correctly. And as a result, I get a whole lot more thrust out of this ship. I mean, the difference is like 4K thrust versus 400, 800, 12. Yeah. It's almost the equivalent of another Mammoth firing off. Almost, but not quite. And Natalis here, she is going to make her science visit over to Moho. Moho is sort of like a Venus. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, we good? That seemed like a heavy gravity turn, but as long as we're good. We're almost at the 70K mark. Our circularization looking good. We are about to have to stage yet another Mammoth off, but that's doesn't concern me. Bye-bye, big old Mammoths. Thrust to weight still above 1. Perfect. And you guys probably can hear me a little bit more easily now. Apo is 70K. Now that the Apo is 70K, I'm going to take over manually and just start to work on the circularization. I'm up in space. Got 11K Delta V left, which is quite a lot. So I have been asked about making a fueling outpost out of a asteroid. It's entirely possible, plausible even, but asteroids do have a limited amount of ore that you can convert to fuel. The bigger the asteroid, of course, the more fuel, but the bigger the asteroid, the harder it is to get it into Kerbal orbit. Every now and then, you'll have an opportunity to do asteroid capture that is easy. Sometimes they are easier to do than others. It depends on the path of intercept. So if I started tracking these, you would see what I'm talking about. I guess that could be my next mission. And if you, like I asked in the beginning of this episode, if you have any other suggestions for missions that you'd like to see before this series gets formally retired, all you got to do is drop me a line. So we are in a parking orbit now. Ooh, so much easier on the ears. The transfer window, let's see, plot it, is year 8, day 91. Alright, so we hit this Met. Okay, so let's go ahead. What we'll do, knowing that this is in a parked orbit, we don't need to worry about this ship. It's not going anywhere. It's just going to sit here in orbit for a long time. So let's go back to the... Actually, I might be able to switch to them from here. Where's my Duna interceptors? Okay, it'll probably be easier. Just go... Oh, here they are. Switch to... Okay, so the transfer window, let's bring that information up again, is year 8, day 91. So we're going to fast forward time to year 8, day 91. I'm not sure, I haven't calculated which comes first, our Duna intercept or year 8, day 91. Oh, it will be the year 8, day 91 for sure. that's coming up fast. It takes a long time to transfer from Kerbin to any other planet. There's a lot of flight time. Alright, so we're at day 90. You're at day 90. Let's go switch back. I'll just go to the tracking station. It'll be a little bit easier. The Moho transfer windows come by more often than Duna. The closer, the greater the greater the orbital speed around the sun, especially when you're in the inner solar system, the more opportunities you have for transfer. Okay, so the ejection angle from Kerbin to Moho is... let me zoom out, get a point of reference. It is about here that we're going to add our maneuver and blast. That's an approximation. Let's have Moho be the target. Now, as you can see, it is significantly more delta V to match Moho for an intercept than it was for Duna, even though Moho is physically closer. I might not have the angle exact, but as you can see, I am sort of intercepting it. Another thing I could do is quickly match its inclination, but it's probably easier to do that when we are in the solar orbit. It's going to be hard to match inclination here. So let's go add a maneuver to try to get there. So the first maneuver, I'm just going to do a maneuver to get us out of Kerbin. And just barely. And that way I can match its inclination and then do the rest of the transfer. Is it the right way of doing it? No, but that's okay. I don't much care that it's the quote-unquote right way. All right. So this ship's been floating around space for about 100 days. Could be worse. All right, we're going to wait until the burn window. I kind of eyeballed this burn window. I think it is a little bit later. It's more like down here that I really ought to be burning. Just as a curiosity, let's see if I actually get an intercept. Nope. Not even a little bit. Alright, game. Cool. Well, I hope I'm doing it right. Okay, so burn time. I have noticed that this calculate delta V burn, etc. doesn't really work. It's assuming that I'm going 100% for every possible burn. I wonder if that's been reported as a bug. So I'm going to burn a little early as a result. And we're going to send this ship heading towards the inner solar system. Now, it's going to be hard to fix the ascension node because I'm not at a point that I can easily do it. And this is something I could have done in my original burn. I could have matched it. In fact, what I could do here is try to match it during this burn to save myself a step. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to cost me a lot more fuel now and save me a lot more fuel later. So this is a difference of 0.6. Because I'm not in the right orbital period to really match it perfectly. Within 0.6 is going to have to be good enough for me. And again, not the right way of doing it, but it'll get me there. Alright, Moho, here I come. We're going to be losing our mammoths in a minute. Here's the tick mark for the mammoth dump. Mammoth dump. But yep. That's coming up right now. And now it's a lot easier to listen to anything. Delta V of 8K left. The rest of this maneuver takes about 600. And then I'm going to have to be switching between my mission to Duna, which intercepts here, and the ships are here, and Moho. And tending to whatever ship gets wherever it needs to be first. Complicated, but not that complicated, as there's probably hundreds of days between each maneuver. I just have to be paying attention to the right one at the right time. So I can stage off one of my landing, my first empty tank. It wouldn't be that much of a problem, because 4 lander legs is fine. And there's nothing really attached to that tank that I need to keep. So now here, at this node, I can fix the my tilt. Let's go warp to next maneuver. I think, again, this maneuver comes up before my Duna. I'm probably missing my transfer window to Moho here. Oh, no, maybe not. It's actually possible I'm not. Okay, so I'm out of electric charge, but I have a human pilot that can extend these solar power panels. Grab some extra electric charge so I can actually use my my reaction wheels. There we go. Now, if I was probe only, this ship would be dead. I'm soaking up that beautiful electricity. And flopping towards my next maneuver. And this maneuver just matches the inclination of Moho, making it easier to get there. My engines have alternators, so they're also charging up my my batteries. Alright, that's probably good enough. Node control locked. Why am I control locked? It's a human pilot. Whatever. I could just ignore that. Hey, look. Alright, fine. It is control locked. Alright, next up. Trying to get to Moho will look... How does it keep saying control locked? I want to control from... here. Limited crew control. What, because you can't pilot? Alright, let's go ahead and hibernate the control pod. I'm not really sure why it's limited crew control. I am somewhat baffled that maybe the scientists don't steer at all, ever. I wasn't aware that that was a thing. But clearly I've lost connection with Kerbal's. It's offline. So yeah, I'm this thing might be drifting a while, because I didn't account for my scientists here to be refusing to pilot at all. Okay, well, let's go ahead and accelerate time once again, keeping an eye on these crafts that are on their intercept. I might pick up CurbNet access again soon on this ship. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so the intercepts here. Let's switch to these crafts and figure out which one is getting their intercept first, which is pretty easy to tell. So this one is a periaps in 170 days. And this one has a periaps of... Come on, periaps. 48 days. Okay. This craft will be first. All because they came in slightly different angles. Alright, so let's just have the game warp for us so we don't overshoot it, because if we overshoot it, there's no remedying that. Alright, so this periaps looks good. We're gonna... Let's warp a little closer. Now, if we weren't doing a circularization burn, this would gravity slingshot us, not by much, but out a little bit, given the angle that I'm coming in. Okay, so maneuver for circularization is all set. Warp to next maneuver. And this is a ship with a hell of a lot of crew on it. This is the one that is going to be docked with, not the docker. Alright, so we're changing to the maneuver node. It's basically a retrograde burn. More or less just throwing on the brakes here. And that actually should satisfy the new orbital station around Duna contract. This is the station after all. Ugly and simple, but it's still a station. Alright, so now we are in circular... or we're in orbit around it. But we need to maintain stability for 10 seconds, which means not thrusting or whatever. But I want to get a nice circularized orbit before I throw on the... or let off the gas. Alright, that's good enough. I can circularize it more if I care to. And maintain stability for 10 seconds. Can you quit wobbling? Alright, let's turn off SAS. SAS is just gonna keep wobbling it until it's done wobbling. Alright, so half a mil, a teeny bit of science, some rep. That one's done. And next up is RHD 17.5. So they came in proper order. The station first, and then the connecting piece. I'm going to decouple that node so that we have no nose cone. And then let's go warp to here. That's too bad about that Moho rocket. Should have hired a pilot to put in there. I obviously have not flown without KerbNet access or a pilot before, far enough away from Kerbin. So that's my bad. All right, warp a little closer. And I probably want to orbit at a different altitude than my... oh yeah, that's a real close one. Good. That will allow me to more easily dock. Alright. That's really crude circularization, but it doesn't really need to be perfectly circularized. It just needs to allow me to dock. Okay, so let's fix this maneuver a little bit. Oh, I see what's wrong. Okay, what I'm going to do is circularize here. We have a little bit of an arc here, as you can see. It's going to cost me some fuel to correct, because I'm coming in at a slightly different angle than I had anticipated. All right. So I'll circularize low and then correct it. I think. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Not too bad. I'd gone all that way to have really, really nice reentries, and nope, not so much. We did just do a flyby of Ike. Oh, that's what it was. That's what happened. That's what threw me off. Ike gravity slingshot me into this wrong intercept. So, blame Ike. The start burn is all sorts of wrong, because I moved the maneuver and it hasn't corrected itself. Let me just add a simple maneuver here. Come on, let me drag. Yeah, alright. So I do this burn and... oh, another issue is all of my side engines were deactive. God, this Jeb, you're a mess. There we go. Was wondering why I was getting no thrust. This is a little confusing. I have too much going on here. I shouldn't have set it as a target mid-maneuver. There we go. Yeah, I was maneuvering incorrectly, as I thought. Luckily, these ships were built with a lot of extra fuel for my user error, right? So we have that going for it. Alright, that's good enough. Now at this node, we will level off. And this is fuel I could have saved had it not happened. That Ike threw us off the path. But that's okay. Okay. And that puts us into a nice orbit, lower altitude orbit than the space station, so that we can actually run an intercept at some point. So, gonna warp to next maneuver. It will cost me a fuel tank here. Well, not a full fuel tank, but I'll have to stage some of this craft off. I might not, actually, because the side tanks here, although I have to haul them, also have parachutes, which could save me fuel in the long run, so I'll leave it on. It also increases drag, albeit a really small amount of drag. So I'm not gonna actually do that staging. I'll just carry around the extra weight for now. Alright, good enough. Now, let's see. Adding maneuver to intercept. We're going to have to orbit a bunch to get within the right phase, aren't we? That's alright. Another thing I could do is the micro adjustment, because we're not quite at the same plane. This won't cost much fuel at all. Okay, it's just a teeny little adjustment. So let's warp tanks maneuver. My Moho craft is at no risk of intercepting anything. It's sort of floating into space because I didn't add what it needed to have, which is a pilot or a better satellite connection. One thing I haven't tried is there should be an antenna on it, unless I strip that antenna off. I could try to extend that antenna, but I don't recall putting a particularly powerful antenna onto that ship anyway, so that might not help. I'll have to brainstorm fixes for it eventually. Alright, that's probably good enough. Yep, 0, 0, okay. So we are moving faster in relation to the station. So after a few orbital periods, we should be able to have a maneuver that actually has us intercepting. But let me switch to the other one. The other one has a higher parking orbit, so it might allow me to advance time faster. I'm not sure. No, not really. I could go to the tracking station and do it that way. That might be easier. But while I'm in the tracking station, let me switch over to the third craft, the kind of dead-in-the-water craft, and see if there's any way to aid them at all. Or did I just send up a, $800,000 craft to litter space? It's possible. I've done worse. Do we even have an antenna? Did I pull the antenna off for no reason whatsoever, given how unbelievably cheap it is? No antenna. So the thing is, I have limited crew control, meaning can't do maneuvers, but I can sure look at what I am doing, right? So I'm not floating necessarily helpless. I just can't plan maneuvers, I guess. But I'm coming up with another intercept with Kerbal or Kerbin soon. So I probably just accelerated time too much for the other ships. Yeah, I'll figure out my Duna first, and then I'll work on Moho. I feel like if I split my attention, I'm gonna make both go wrong. So all I got to do here is be patient and get into the right phase for a maneuver to dock. Which, actually, I'm just about in. Oops, that's not the maneuver I wanted to plan. Oh, am I? No, yep. Cool. Separation 7 kilometers. Separation 2 kilometers. Separation 1 kilometer. All right, there we go. I love how I just randomly accelerate time, and I'm like almost perfectly within the window to maneuver. Although these windows come up constantly. We are in a very low altitude orbit, so in relation to Moho, we're spinning around it quite quickly, much like the International Space Station. If we were in a much higher orbit, the opportunities to do a transfer would be fewer and far between. And this is only a 20 meters per second burn. It's a pretty inexpensive one. Meaning the speed differences between these two crafts are pretty negligible. 20 meters per second is like secondary highway speeds, right? Or not even. 20 meters per second in miles an hour is like 45 miles an hour. It's like cheetah speed. A cheetah could match this. Okay, so now I'm going to match speeds with target rather than worry about maneuvering. This RHD-17 should be coming up behind us pretty quick. So let me point retrograde and wait for it to get closer. Alright. And then match speed with it. Oh, let me not SES to prograde or retrograde. Let me just control this manually. So I'm also trying to center up. I'm trying to burn any sort of difference between direction here too. And it has paid off. We're basically on top of one another. Look at that beautiful ship over there. Looks just like us. Give or take minute differences. Alright, so now we are, even if we bumped, it wouldn't really damage anything but solar power panels, of which I could retract on the other ship because they're out and deployed. What is this? Parameter. So we haven't docked two vessels, but we've maneuvered or rendezvoused. Rendezvous is just like get them close. That's much easier to do than the whole docking bit. And what I must say is this craft is a little large and cumbersome, much like the last one. But I am out of time, and I know how long docking takes me, so I'm going to end up finishing it off here. If you have any suggestions for future missions, drop me a line. There'll be only a handful of episodes left given its viewership numbers. So I'd like to make those count. If you have an idea of how to save my moho, I have some ideas myself, but you can leave me a tip about that as well. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you all later. Adios.